The NBA playoffs this year were expected to be a wild ride, and now that we're near the end of the journey, I think it's safe to say that it has lived up to those expectations. Almost every series has been action-packed and filled with tight-knit battles set with shocking results, expected dominance, and also some unfortunate disappointments. And that last one is what brings us to today's video. Today, we will be discussing the 5 star players that entered the postseason with hopes of dominance and expectations of it to help lead their teams to success, but in reality, they ended up holding their teams back with their struggles when it mattered most, disappointing everyone. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but it also very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. The first player we'll be discussing today that disappointed everyone in the playoffs this year is Jimmy Butler of the Golden State Warriors. Jimmy Butler's season was a pretty wild ride this year, with the relationship between him and the Miami Heat souring quickly and a change of scenery becoming necessary for both parties. Butler forced his way out because he grew frustrated with the lack of urgency being shown by the Miami Heat front office and knew the fact of the matter was that they were no longer a team that could realistically compete for anything meaningful, and he wanted to go somewhere to reopen his championship window. He got his wish when he was sent to Golden State to play with Steph Curry, and for a while they were looking like a legit contender, catching fire to end the season. But in the second round of the playoffs against the Minnesota Timberwolves, Steph Curry went down with an injury in Game 1, which led to the expectations that Jimmy was going to have to level up and take his game to another level to try to carry the team, as he showed he could do plenty of times during his Heat days. That, however, did not happen. The Warriors would hold on to win Game 1, but then they lost 4 straight games in Curry's absence, and Butler himself scored fewer than 20 points in 3 of those 4 losses, which is just unacceptable for a number 1 option who made as big of a fuss as he did about competing to win championships. That was his chance to walk the walk after talking the talk all year, and he shied away from the big moments this time. He played way too passively, oftentimes not even looking to score, and the fact that he took just 9 shot attempts in Game 4 and 11 shot attempts in Game 5 with the season on the line is just not a good look. The next star player that disappointed everyone in the playoffs this year is James Harden of the Los Angeles Clippers. James Harden has been proving that he can still ball at a high level as he ages, with his playmaking being as sharp as ever and him being able to carry the offense in the regular season in Kawhi Leonard's absence for the most part. Throughout his entire career, Harden's Achilles heel has always been showing up with his A game in important series-deciding playoff games. But with Kawhi Leonard back on the court for the playoffs this year healthy, there was hope that this year could be different for the Clippers, as he came in with a lot of momentum against Denver, but unfortunately what we witnessed was a lot of the same old for Harden. Harden started the series hot in Game 1, as he has done countless of other times, putting up 32 points, but the rest of the series was a different story. He scored fewer than 20 points in 4 of the next 6 games, and in Game 7, when everything was on the line, he mustered up just 8 total shot attempts, shooting 2 for 8, putting up an embarrassing 7 points, resulting in yet another vanishing act in an elimination game. Harden is one of the greatest talents the NBA has ever seen, and is an all-time great scorer and playmaker who is in the record books for it, but the accusations have always been that he has no clutch gene, and as much as I hate to have to say this, it becomes harder and harder to disagree when we see the same story unfold every year. The next star player that disappointed everyone in the playoffs this year is Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies. Not only is Jaren a Defensive Player of the Year winner, but he's also now a 2-time All-Star, so we are past the point of giving him the benefit of the doubt as a secondary player. If he wants to be rewarded with all of these prestigious accolades, then he's going to start getting held to the same standards that every other All-Star caliber player gets held to under the bright lights of the playoffs, and what Jaren displayed in their series against the Thunder this year was flat out embarrassing. The Grizzlies obviously came in as pretty big underdogs against the 1 seed, who have been the best team in the league all season long, but nothing is impossible to overcome in the playoffs, and the Grizzlies may have been able to hang with them more if they got an even above average showing from Jaren, but that did not happen. In Game 1, the Grizzlies got humiliated, losing by 51 points, where Jaren shot 2 of 13 from the field to score 4 points. He did well in Game 2, admittedly, putting up 26 points, but in Game 3 and Game 4, he shot a combined 10 of 28, as they lost both games and got swept, and for the series as a whole, Jaren shot 37% from the field and 27% from 3. He also nearly fouled out in both of those last 2 games. He only had 2 total blocks in the entire series, with his rim protection not stacking up how a Defensive Player of the Year winners should, and all in all, it became apparent that it's difficult to rely on him to be a go-to scoring option when it matters. The next star player that disappointed everyone in the playoffs this year is Jaylen Brown of the Boston Celtics. The Celtics are the defending champions who, on paper, were still the best team in the Eastern Conference and were expected by most to defend their title or at least make it to the conference finals. In the second round against the New York Knicks, Jaylen Brown started the series ice cold, and unfortunately, after losing the first 2 games, it set them back too far to overcome. In Game 1, Jaylen shot 7 of 20 from the field and 1 of 10 from 3 in a very winnable overtime game that could have gone their way if he shot the ball better. In Game 2, he shot even worse, going 8 of 23 in a 1-point loss, and then for the rest of the series, he was pretty mediocre when they needed him to be great if they wanted to come back. As the reigning Finals MVP, with the second largest contract in NBA history, you can't just skate by when the going gets tough, and shooting 40% from the field and 28% from 3 in the series as a whole is definitely not good enough either. When Jason Tatum went down in Game 5, it was his time to prove that he could be a number 1 option and solidify himself as one of the league's best wing players, but instead, he confirmed what many already knew, that he's a solid number 2 that can't reliably create well enough for himself off the dribble to handle the duties of being a franchise player. And finally, the last star player that we'll be discussing today that disappointed everyone in the playoffs this year is Jaylen Green of the Houston Rockets. Jaylen Green is an undeniable talent, but the story of his career has always been that he comes with way more frustrations and inconsistencies than flashes of greatness. He'll have games where he can drop 40 points, but then he'll rattle off a few games where he shoots his team out of games with questionable decision making, and the star potential becomes less worth it to trust on the big stage. This year's playoff series against the Golden State Warriors may have been his tryout to convince Houston to buy into him as a long-term member of their core, and unfortunately, he failed that tryout. Because the 7-game series that ended in defeat pretty much saw a summary of his career. He had one explosive 38-point outing, but the other 6 games, he failed to score more than 12 points in a single one of them, scoring in single digits 4 times, and doing all of this while being a complete liability on the defensive end. Green was the team's leading scorer this year, putting up 21 points per game in the regular season, but he's just not trustworthy enough to be a go-to option on a team that wants to contend. And with several reports indicating that the Rockets are going to be active on the trade market this summer, looking to take a big swing at acquiring a star, Jaylen Green may find himself on the move as a centerpiece of all of these teams' trade offers. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below which players you were most disappointed by. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.